What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Colton Steiner, and this is Sean Adkins, and this is the Grinding Gears podcast. How are you doing this week, Sean?
I'm doing really good, really good. Just got back from Thanksgiving vacation. Started off to a great start, so it's all good. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. You know, it always feels like a long weekend ruins the next week. It's because you have Thursday, which was Thanksgiving. Last Wednesday felt more like a Friday. Then some people take a Friday off, so that's like another Saturday. And then you have Saturday, and then that feels like Sunday, but then the next day's Sunday. So it's like, what, a 4-day weekend? And then you go in on Monday. It's like, now we're back to reality, and I don't like reality.
Then it drags on the entire week.
Oh, yeah. It just makes you want to just go back to the last Wednesday and enjoy the 4 days.
Yeah,
definitely. Can we work 5 days? Work 2 days a week and relax for the other 5 days?
Yeah, tell me about it. Sign me up for that.
Man. But yeah, in today's episode, we have a good number of topics to talk about. Last week, we were talking about TV shows for a bit, and it made me think about my top 5 TV shows, which is pretty cut and dry for me. But then it made me think, I wonder what your 5 TV shows were, and I was like, you know what? This is a great topic to talk about. So yeah, the first segment is we're going to list our top 5 TV shows, what they're about, and why we like them. And then we're going to go on and talk about the MacBook Pro M1 chip. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, the MacBook Pro with the M1 chip. Yep.
Yeah, haha.
You got it.
See, I'm not too tech savvy, so I'm glad I got that right. But yeah, after that, then we'll go on to the Grinding Gears portion of the show. So starting off, when we're going to list our top 5 TV shows, I'm going to list one of mine, then Sean's going to say his, then we'll go back and forth until we each say 5. So starting off for me, Psych is probably my all-time favorite TV show. And I know you're a fan of Psych, but for me, I didn't watch the pilot episode. That's the thing. I never watched the pilot, but I did watch the second episode, which was the spelling bee. And that was, honestly, that may be one of my favorite episodes ever, and that got me hooked. But basically, if you don't know what Psych is, it's about 2 best friends who have been friends for years, since they were kids, solving crime for the Santa Barbara Police Department. And Sean Spencer, Burton Guster, she goes by Sean and Gus. They're just a dynamic duo, and Sean has this ability. He pretends to be psychic, and because he got stuck, he was a suspect in an investigation, and he proved that he was, quote, psychic, and and ended up working for the Santa Barbara Police Department, help him solve crimes for, I believe, 7 or 8 seasons. I can't remember off the top of my head. I believe it. I think it was 8, but yeah, it ended perfectly. And we're not going to say spoilers of any of these TV shows, but that was my first TV show, because the dynamic duo between Sean and Gus, it's just a hilarious idea that works so well, and their on-screen chemistry is amazing. And even though the show ended in 2014, they ended up making a Psych the Movie 1 and then a Psych the Movie 2 they just recently released the Psych the Movie 2, Lassie Comes Home. It is streaming on, what is that? Peacock. So if you want to go check it out, great show, great movie in my opinion. A lot better than the first one, but still, it's always fun seeing shows come back and do specials like that. So yeah. That show really ended in 2014. Yep. I remember, because 2014, a lot of the shows I'm going to list ended in that year, between 2013 and 2015.
Wow.
And
I feel old.
I know, right? Because I remember watching the first episode of Psych. Well, not the first. Aside from the pilot, I say the first episode is the spelling bee episode. But I watched that episode in 2006, and then it ended in 2014. So it really blows my mind that it released 14 years ago was the first episode, but it's still loved by all. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It didn't make my top 5 list, but it's definitely one of the good TV shows.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, go on with your first one.
All right, so my first one is The Good Place. I just recently finished watching this one. It's with Ted Danson, Darcy Carden, and Kristen Bell, which is she's a very accomplished actress. And the show overall just gives off a good message that there may be consequences to your actions. It's a show based on the what happens when you die. You either go to the good place or the bad place, and your actions based on Earth add up to this point total. And when you die, this point total gets calculated, and you either get dumped off on the bad place or the good place. Overall, it's definitely one of the best written shows I've ever watched. All the acting is it's absolutely amazing because you feel the characters' emotions in ways I've never felt before. It's like you're there, and you can totally relate to everything they say, and it's just an overall great show. So that's definitely my number one.
Yeah, I've never seen an episode of it, but that premise...
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, but that premise alone, it's a brilliant idea, because you have all these other shows, like what I just talked about, Psych, where it's a cut and dry, you find the murder, you do all that. It tells a story between... You see the clues, put it all together, and you solve the crime. But that one, it's more of a, it's more complicated than that. And I think those type of TV shows are a lot more interesting when it comes to episode development.
Yeah, definitely. The what's it called? It only ran 4 seasons, and it was a creative decision by the writer Michael Schur to end it after 4 seasons. And honestly, if you watch the show, it is the perfect length. It's probably the best. Like I said, it's the best written TV show in history. It's just perfect. I don't know what else can compete with that, in my opinion. It really, if you're religious at all or not, you can watch it and
still enjoy it.
And still enjoy it, and it'll get a little tick in your head that say, hey, maybe some actions that I do on Earth. It doesn't matter what religion you are. Maybe there's some actions, that I do on Earth. There might be consequences to that.
Maybe
I should
it's
really
not
think
morally right to do.
Yeah, maybe I should think before, doing certain things. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know another TV show like that, and the fact that it was a creative decision to stop the show, I think, is a smart move, because it's one of those decisions where I know there's been numerous TV shows out there where they continue to pretty much gut this show until it's just not as entertaining anymore. Yeah. And so if the creator of the show decides, you know what, I think this is as good as we're going to get it, I think that's a smart move. And then it makes it enjoyable when you're watching all these episodes and not having to force yourself through. So
yeah, I binge watched that entire thing in like a week. My mom is actually the one that showed me, and she showed me the first 3 episodes, and I told my girlfriend about it, and we watched it, and we binge watched that in like 2 weeks. It is such a good show.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're done with that, I'm going to talk about my second show, and my second show is The Mentalist. And if you don't know what The Mentalist is, it's a show about a guy who, like my first one, The Psych, he used to be a psychic and pretended to be a psychic to get rich and make money and become famous, but it ended up costing him a whole lot more, because he would pretty much antagonize and judge this guy that it's a serial killer known as Red John, and he called him a fool and how he's stupid that he's going to get caught. And this isn't really isn't really a spoiler, because the whole show is based off this, but Red John kills his wife and his daughter, and the whole show is about him trying to, for the first 75% of the seasons of the show, is him trying to catch this killer and trying to helping the CBI solve crimes, while also trying to figure out who this man is that ruined his family, that killed his wife and his child. So it's a very fun aspect where it's not just worried about all these detective shows, you have these, like I said about Psych, you have a crime, and then they solve the crime, and you put the pieces together. But this one, it's the entire show. Yes, there's a crime going on, but the main aspect is him trying to find the serial killer. So the comedic aspect is he doesn't believe in psychics, and he calls out anyone that is a psychic too, because he's like, I know you're just trying to get money out of it. So at the end of the day, I highly recommend you watch it. If you have Amazon Prime and Prime Video, you can go check it out there, because it's all 8 seasons are up there, and they ended it on a beautiful note. And I don't want to spoil it for y'all. Highly recommend you go check it out. It's a great show, and the main 5 characters are very enjoyable to watch, because each bring a different aspect to the show. So Patrick Jane brings his comedic remarks and his wit and his smart ability to solve crimes. Teresa Lisbon, she's like the mom of the group. She's like trying to help everyone out. Kimball Cho, he's like the hardcore detective. Like, we need to do this the right way. Mm-hmm. Then there's Grace Van Pelt. She's the other female main character there. That's the rookie. She's like the new one to the group, and she's knows what's right, but doesn't want to ruin it for everybody else. But she wants to be a part of the group. And then there's Wayne Rigsby, who wants to do the right thing, but he knows, like Kimball Cho, he needs to be hard ass, but he needs to be be smart about his decisions too. But I don't want to judge them based on each character, because it meshes so well at the end of the day. So that's when I'm talking about The Mentalist, I highly recommend you go out and check it out. It's 8 seasons, and it's a fun story, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's very intense, and it's intense, but it's not like scary at all. It has it has a good story. So yeah, that's The Mentalist for you, and yeah, highly recommend you go give that a whirl.
All right, so I guess my turn's for my second one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, so my second favorite TV show of all time is Dr. House. Well, I think it's just called House MD or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a show based on, or focused around, this doctor who has a crude sense of humor, and has a lot of traumatic events happen in his life. And he has a team of medical doctors that kind of change throughout the show. And he solves the most ambiguous medical disasters I've ever seen, and somehow pulls off miracles, sometimes morally and sometimes I don't know how to describe it. Morally wrong, yeah. But I don't really want to spoil it.
He's straight. He gets right to the point. He's like, you know what?
Yeah,
we're not gonna mess around here. We're gonna get it done no matter what it takes to make you get better, even if you don't like the way I do things.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
And he does have that very crude and sarcastic humor about it, and that just keeps me engaged throughout the show. And his interaction with the characters as well, the way he interacts with Cameron and Dr. Taub. Oh, he just roasts him a couple times. But it's a great show. I've said it a billion times already. And I highly recommend you watch it. You can find that one at your local library. I think that was on 7 seasons or so. Keeps you on your toes. Definitely does.
Yeah, as a fan, I'm a fan of that show as well. It's not in my top 5, but I've definitely watched that, and definitely keeps you on the top of your tips of your toes. But it also, it's kind of educational, because it teaches you, these are all rare diseases and rare sicknesses, but they're real. You can go look them up. I'm trying to think if all of them are real or if just some of them are made up or not. But I think for the most part they're on the realistic aspect.
Yeah, for the most part, I think some of the cases, or most of the cases, are real. But obviously they put a Hollywood spin on it, to where so it wouldn't be totally accurate. Like, you couldn't go in and perform a search surgical operation. But I think the majority of the cases that they found were written or actual cases somewhere.
All right. Well, my third one is a show called White Collar, and it ran on USA Network from, I believe, 2009 to 2014 or 2013 as well. Ended one of those years, but it's about a con man joining forces with the FBI. He gets an anklet. He gets let out of prison early to help the FBI solve crime while he's still serving his time for the crimes that he committed for bond forgery. But it's about Matt Bomer plays Neil Caffrey, and he's just a smart, witty con man, and he's such a lovable character. And Peter Burke, the character that plays him is so fun to watch too, because he's like his dad, and the friendship that develops between the two is just so fun to watch. And I don't think there's another show other than maybe Psych that you have a duo like this, because all these other shows, it's like, oh, they're best friends. These guys weren't ever best friends. Peter Burke, the FBI agent, spent 4 years trying to catch Neil Caffrey, and he was the only one that was able to catch him and put him behind bars. But what I love is every episode, it shows you how smart Neil Caffrey is, while also keeping you at the attention of the show. So it's a different technique that Neil may use to con someone, but it applies to this specific case. So I love watching it. I've watched it. It's only 6 seasons, and the last season it has only 6 episodes. But I highly recommend you watch it, because it's Neil Caffrey is a con man, so he can't stop being a con man. So he gets into trouble, and he's trying to go behind Peter sometimes. So just the relationship between those two characters works so well, in my opinion. So another one, White Collar, go check it out. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that one.
All right. So my next 3 are on Apple TV Plus. And they're all Apple TV Plus originals. And this one, I'm not going to say too much because I give away a lot of content. It's Home Before Dark. It's a binge-worthy TV show that me and my girlfriend started a while back, about a 9-year-old journalist who investigates a murder in her town, which I believe was in Washington. But it's also based on a true story, which is pretty fascinating to me. And you take that journey with her as she finds different pathways and different events that happen that she's documenting to report in her newspaper, per se. Her newspaper. Her dad was a journalist for the New York Times, I believe. It's been a hot second since I watched it. And so that's how she got her passion for it, and she took that with her, and that is the main premise of the show. It reminds me of a mix between Encyclopedia Brown and Nancy Drew.
Yeah. kind of.
Yeah,
just a darker aspect.
That mystery, yeah. And overall, like it'll keep you like the other shows. It'll keep you on your toes. But the production quality on all the Apple TV Plus shows is just through the roof. And it's just the lighting, the cinematography, the audio, which it's pretty big for me because I got a surround sound bar now, so I can have like Dolby 5.1 surround sound, and I don't think Netflix has those capabilities. So it is, the production quality of any Apple TV Plus show is absolutely insane. So highly recommend you check out, I guess, my next 3, but this one, Home Before Dark, if you're into that sort of thing of, kind of like a murder mystery, but a kid investigating it. So,
all right,
that's all I have on that one.
Alrighty. Well, my next one is Parks and Rec, and I think this is everyone has. I love this. That show. It's so good. It is so hilarious, and the characters are so relatable too. So And I think the final season really explains everything well. And obviously, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but the characters that they bring in and the actors, they've actually grown to do bigger roles too. So it's about Leslie Knope working her way to the political forefront of her town and trying to make her town a better place of Pawnee, Indiana. And it's just the way the town reacts to stuff and the way they tell this episode stories is just so funny. I don't think there's a show like a comedy show that reaches this level of comedic value for me. I mean, you have all these other shows. You got Family Guy, you have South Park. Those are darker comedies, obviously. And then you have The Office. But this one, it's lighter. It's lighter. It's enjoyable. But you still have adult humor in some situations. But the intro between storytelling and comedic value just works perfectly for me.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's more entertaining too, because it's not like every season kind of drags on to the next one too. So it's kind of telling Leslie Knope's story, but it flows smoothly. So you could compare it to The Office. I think that's like the most popular comparison, but I think it's so much more enjoyable. So
I'm
highly
pretty
recommend
sure. I'm pretty sure that the same writer who wrote The Office also wrote Parks and Rec.
I think so too.
I'm 90% positive that they also wrote The Good Place as well. I'm pretty sure he wrote all three of those shows.
Well, so whoever the writer is, they did a good job writing TV shows.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to add to that, I think Chris Pratt, Andy Dwyer in the show really, really adds a lot.
Oh yeah.
It has that stupid humor,
I think the worst season, and don't get me wrong, the first season great, but it's also the worst out of the what was it, 7 seasons, and it was because they brought in here his character, and for the most part, it was all serious. It was more serious the first season, and then once they brought him in the second season as a show regular, that's when everything kind of flipped over and it became more enjoyable for me. And
I have to say, my favorite line, you're gonna have to say your favorite line. My favorite line in the entire show is when Andy's looking at a computer and Leslie is sick and she comes out of the office and Andy's like, "Hey, Leslie, I typed your symptoms into the search bar and I got the results that says you may have network connectivity problems." I lost it. I lost it because it's so genuine. And that was improv.
That was improv too. That's what blows my mind. I love that line. It's so good. But the one that makes me crack up every time. So Andy Dwyer, April Ludgate, they're going to doctors. They're getting like all their checkups in one day, and they're listing all where they've been through. So I got my feet microwaved, x-rayed. And then went to a doctor. He touched my penis. That was weird. And that guy wasn't even a real doctor. Then he was like, his eyes get wide and he looks at her and he's like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, yeah. It's perfect. Just the characters on that show are just so good, and they tell such a great story. And there's new jokes in every episode, so highly recommend it. We both enjoy it very, very much, and it's dragged out to a point where they ended it at the right time. So
yeah, I agree with that. Yep,
it's not like they went overboard, but
it was a satisfying ending. I won't say anymore.
Very satisfying.
Yep.
So, all right, that's my fourth one.
All right, so my fourth one is Mythic Quest. It's a show about a game. Again, this is on Apple TV+. It's a show about a game company, video game company, I think mobile video game company, who it's kind of like The Office, where you have that interaction between boss and employees. And you go through this journey as they develop this game and hurdle all sorts of different challenges between, getting... I can't really say that without ruining the show. But, yeah, I mean, you kind of journey with them, and it is so relatable because a lot of the same stuff that happens in there, I've experienced in my lifetime during being in an office. And it's pretty cool because like it's another one of the shows where it's very immersive and you feel like you belong as part of one of the video game developers or whatever. And I guess if you're really interested in video games, it's definitely a show for you to watch. And one cool thing that they did here, this show is still running, but obviously with the current pandemic situation, they can't like film anything. But they did a quarantine episode where the entire thing was done. I think that was all shot on iPhones. I'm pretty sure. It was incredible. And man,
that's pretty.
I can't say any more because I'd spoil it. But like it is so good what they do. You know those, I guess I could say this. You know those chain reactions on YouTube where you you know, you press something and it goes down or whatever. They did that with all the cast members. Holy cow! That's all I'm gonna say. It is unbelievable. You should highly recommend that show if you want. If like I said, if you're interested in video games and you're interested in kind of like the office humor and integration of like boss versus employee, I highly recommend you go to check that out. Once again, Apple production quality is 10 out of 10. You'd enjoy the show. So that's my fourth one.
All right. Well, my fifth and final one is How I Met Your Mother, and I'm trying to remember. I believe the show started in, was it 2004 or 2005? And then it went all the way till 2014. And I believe it either ended in 2013 or 2014, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But it basically is about a guy named Ted Mosby, and he's telling his kids the whole story of how he met their mother. And it goes on for 9 seasons, and it's a very entertaining show for me because it's so relatable in various aspects. So you have Marshall Erickson, his best friend, roommate from college, and then you got Barney Stinson, another one of their best friends, Lily Aldrin, who is Marshall Erickson's fiance / wife. But yeah, it's a great show, and I think a lot of people have certain aspects of the show that they can relate to, and I'm not going to spoil it at all, but you laugh, you cry, and you laugh and you cry through it. And throughout the entire show, there's certain stories that you think wouldn't happen, but the more you think about it, it works perfectly for the show. And a lot of people were kind of disappointing with the ending, but I personally loved it. So yeah, I highly recommend How I Met Your Mother. It's relatable as heck, and yeah, it's funny too, and everyone gets a happy ending.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my fifth and final one. Not much for me to say about that one because the show is in the title.
Yeah, the show speaks itself. It speaks for itself there. All right, so my fifth and final one is Defending Jacob, another Apple TV Plus one. This show stars Captain America, Chris Evans.
Chris Evans
is an incredible actor. Man, that guy's good.
See, I'm really glad everyone knows him as Captain America, and I've seen a little bit of the show, honestly, because I saw the preview for it, and I was like, oh, that actually looks interesting. But I'm so glad he's able to broaden his acting range here.
Yeah.
But go on.
Yeah, he's the whole premise of the show is I'm trying to word it without spoiling the show.
Yeah.
He's a lawyer and I think he's the, what do you call that, district attorney or whatever that is. Someone that represents people if they can't afford a lawyer or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And his son ends up getting
framed.
I know
he got framed for something. I forget.
Yeah,
what he was
framed for murdering somebody, and the whole show kind of just develops from that. It's probably all I'm going to say without spoiling that there. And it shows you the whole dangers of social media and what social media can actually do to a person, and how quickly things can spread.
Yeah.
That's actually all I got on that one without spoiling it.
going on from that show really works in this day and age. I mean,
it does. It does.
10 years ago, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked at all. Yeah. In my opinion, you couldn't forge a good TV show talking about social media, and people are like, well, it's not really that much of a thing. Nowadays, social media is the forefront of everything. I mean, that's how most people live their lives. So many jobs have been developed around social media. So I definitely understand a show like that definitely works well. And
one thing that I think makes it so immersive is obviously it's an Apple TV Plus show, so everything in there is Apple. Like they have Macs, iPhones, and whatever. But the cool thing is you can relate to it because it's a physical product that someone or somewhere you actually can see and use. It's not a dramatization of a green screen on something. So you see, actual text messages being sent, actual Instagram, actual Facebook being pulled up, FaceTime, all that stuff, which in my opinion adds a whole new level of immersion into the show because, hey, wait a minute, I use that same platform.
Yeah.
What just happened here? Look how, it really makes you think. It really makes you think.
Definitely. And shows, I like, a lot of people want to sit down and don't want to think about a show. That's why we watch Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
But then there's shows that you want to sit down and think. So like a show like Defending Jacob makes you want to sit down and think, and how do I live my life in a way that I can better my life without social media? And it makes you think, do we really need social media?
No, we don't.
No, yeah.
We don't. We survived without it for a while, for I don't know how many years.
I think the world's gotten worse since we brought in social media.
Let's save that for the next. Let's save that for next week's Grinding Gear segment. That'll be a good one.
That would be a good one for sure. But
moving on for that one.
Moving on from TV shows, that was a great segment. I love talking about TV shows because every TV show brings its own story and brings its own kind of entertainment. So it was fun to talk about, and we're going to move on to the MacBook Pro. And Sean recently bought a MacBook Pro, the new one, and he's going to talk about his impressions of it.
Yeah, so last, I think it was Tuesday evening, I was like, you know what? I've been watching a lot of YouTube reviews on the MacBook Pro with the M1 chip, and I've been hearing a lot of positive things about it. And I was like, well, could it improve my creative workflow? Because I run a YouTube channel on the side. If you don't know what it is, it's youtube.com/Paul's Place, and it'll take you right to it. So I don't know. I've kind of been falling into a slump lately of like, there's nothing to record, nothing to do. And the editing experience hasn't been that great on my custom-built gaming PC, to be honest with you. I was actually kind of disappointed with it. And like I said, I've been seeing all these reviews about how it's so great or whatever. So I fell for the marketing hype, and I broke down and bought one. And I have to say, wow. Absolutely wow. It is insane here. I'm actually using it right here to look at the outline for the show. And it's the MacBook Pro M1 13-inch with 8 gigabytes of RAM and a 256 gigabyte SSD. It is absolutely incredible. The build quality on it is this thing's built like a tank. It's like an armored tank, and I've never owned a Mac before at all. I used to make fun of people for owning Macs because I thought they were just overpriced piles of Apple stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is my first one. And the build, like I said, the build quality of it is just amazing. You pick it up, and typical laptops, they kind of have that flex to it.
Uh-huh.
This one, you pick it up, and it's a solid chunk of metal. It's incredible. And the keyboard, it's got those new scissor switches under the keys. So the typing experience is super smooth. All the keys go down at the same length. And it's overall a pleasure to type on. And I think a really big aspect of making a good laptop is having a wrist rest. Let me bring this back up. Hopefully you can see it. But like here, you literally got a space to rest your palms on and type on. That is huge. And I don't know why 13-inch or 14-inch, whatever, notebook manufacturers can't get that through their head that, hey, I need something to rest my wrists on so I can type. Because, man, it gets really uncomfortable. So, I mean, the overall design and the build quality of it is incredible. The performance is really, really great. I actually just published a video yesterday on comparing this Mac to my custom-built Ryzen 3700X PC in DaVinci Resolve 17, and you should go check out that video for yourself. I won't spoil it. YouTube.com/Paul's Place, and it'll link that in there, or you'll be able to see it. The battery life has been incredible too. So far I'm on track to get 18 to 20 hours out of this thing. That's insane.
That's really good. Cause I remember, okay, it's an older laptop, but I could only get like 6 hours max unplugged. Yeah. In the fact that can go 18 to 20 hours is remarkable. And then with when you're using it, like heavy usage too. It's not like you're just
like video editing, web browsing, video streaming. I can throw anything I want to this thing, and I could easily get an entire day's use without even having to go on a plug. And that is just so awesome for me. And the chargers are all USB-C, so I don't have to hunt. Yes, I don't have to hunt for, Apple's whatever charger so-and-so. USB-C, find a USB-C, we're good.
USB-C is the way to go, and I don't know why more people aren't going that route. But me personally, I've actually used Apple products to edit videos on, and that's actually back when I was at college, and all the videos that I made for my university at that time, for the news organization I worked with, and for my personal YouTube videos, everything was on a Mac computer, and I loved editing on that. And I was like you, I was one to say, well, it's different. It's weird and it's stupid how they use certain aspects of it. But when you actually sit down and work on it, you realize, man, it's actually really enjoyable to edit on. And I was using Adobe Premiere at that time, not DaVinci Resolve, but it was still fun to edit. So I definitely understand you enjoying that MacBook. So when you were telling me that editing was a breeze and so fun to do, I was not surprised. They really, I think most video editors, from my opinion, use a Mac to edit, and because it's very performance heavy, and you can just everything works smoothly.
That's the thing. The creative workflow on the Macs is incredible. Like, PCs have their niche, professional and gaming or whatever.
Yeah, but we're not trying to diss on PCs.
Yeah,
we're just saying I'm
not trying to step on my Mac soapbox because I got a Mac, or whatever. Yeah. But they really do have their place. And like I said, I made fun of people. And probably a couple listeners are listening know who you are for buying these. And I'm sorry, because there's a purpose for it.
Yeah, you talk about the price tag, and it's like, why would you spend that much on an Apple product? And then you sit down and use it, and it's like, can I buy this from you? Yeah. How much do you want? Yeah. I'll pay you whatever you want for it.
And get that, like, you were using the Intel-based Macs. Like, this thing is like 2 or 3 times the performance of the Intel-based Macs. Can you imagine that?
I can only imagine how much better to work on it that would be. And because how many Macs do they have out? I know you got which one did you get?
So they got 3 Macs that they just released with this chip. They got I got the MacBook Pro with the M1. They have the MacBook Air with the M1, and they have the Mac Mini with the M1 chip. The MacBook Pro and Mini are the same one. I think they have an 8-core CPU and an 8-core GPU. The MacBook Air has an 8-core CPU but a 7-core GPU, and it does not have a fan. That's another thing. The MacBook Air is completely fanless, and the MacBook Pro has a fan to cool it. I have never once heard this fan kicked on, nor has the computer to the touch gotten hot enough to where I have to say, hey, should this fan kick on? It's pretty hot. It's gotten warm, but it hasn't gotten uncomfortable. It's incredible what these chips can actually push out and the performance that they're able to do without using any power. I mean, this is their first generation. This is their first hit right out of the gate. Can you imagine in 2 to 3 years?
Oh man,
what it's going to be?
That's gonna be incredible. And
I mean, 8K will be possible to edit on finally.
I was just gonna talk about editing in 4K. So you and me, like, I don't have a great editing rig for 4K, and I never really record in 4K anyway. But even on your computer, going back in footage and recording in 4K is an absolute nightmare on PCs. I don't know what it is. But on Apple products, it seems to work so much smoothly, so much more smooth than a PC. So, because the playback is a lot smoother, there's no lag. But when I would go in 1080, I would have a crap ton of problems with lag when it comes to playback in my project settings. So
yep. Yeah, I had a lot of the issues with that too. And this latest video I uploaded comparing the Mac to the PC, youtube.com/PaulsPlace, by the way. It's my first video ever in 4K. And it is, I don't want to brag, but like, I'm very proud of that. That's a big achievement for me.
Yeah.
To be able to, it's more of a personal achievement than a brag, because everybody's been publishing videos in 4K for Lord knows how long. But like, it is a personal achievement for me, and I'm finally glad to be able to step up to that, because, it's a waste of space. It uses a ton of stuff, but it looks amazing.
Beautiful.
It looks beautiful.
But it's going to be interesting to see how PCs and GPUs and CPUs try and combat that new product from Apple, because it makes you wonder, are they going to start entering the gaming world now? Are they going to try and compete with them when it comes to gaming? Because now if I'm AMD or Nvidia, I'm like, crap, I got to try and make something a lot better here to compete with editing and stuff. So that'll be the next thing. That's gonna be the next big thing for Apple, is if they're able to enter the gaming market, or if developers would actually be able to develop games for the ARM-based processors. I know it's kind of a challenge, but I did end up installing a few games on it this afternoon, and I have to say the results are pretty impressive for this. Now, what FPS were you getting in those games?
I was getting very playable FPS, and I will share those details in my next upcoming video. But I will say, for the resolution it was playing at, it was very playable. And if you really are an FPS nut, you can turn down the settings just a little bit with little to no sacrifice on visual effects, and you can easily get 60, 70, 80 plus FPS all day long.
And at the end of the day, as long as you're above 60, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter how, like, people are saying, it gets 200 FPS. Well, are you really going to notice a difference between 100 FPS and 150? I mean, maybe.
Unless you're a competitive esports gamer, you're not going to notice the difference. It drives me crazy to get to that. I think it's a waste of money to spend that much money on that stuff.
Whenever I see these graphics cards company at these launches saying, you're going to get 400 FPS in this version compared to 300 FPS in this other version, I'm like, really, it doesn't matter, because if I'm getting that much FPS of a difference, I'm just gonna
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
But like, as soon as they get those in there, and it definitely would put the efficiency challenge to Intel and AMD. I'm looking forward to next year, or maybe the years to come, to make a MacBook Pro thick boy Max, where they make a thick one and make a battery last the entire week.
Yeah, and I will be wondering to see what the prices are, because Apple's always going to be more expensive. But if they're entering the gaming contest, are they going to try and lower their prices to compete with these other companies? Makes you wonder, makes you think.
That is the key, because they were able to match last generation's prices. I think they actually lowered the MacBook Air price by $100. But since this is their first hit out of the gate, It's hard to say what they're going to do. I mean, this performance is so great. They might actually be in the right, per se, for them to charge more in the upcoming things. I think that's going to be a price war, and I think we're going to start to see a kind of Intel NVIDIA thing, in my opinion, with an Apple start to happening. I could be wrong, but
let the games begin.
Yes.
But yeah, if you're done with the MacBook Pro and your thoughts on the M1 chip, we're going to move on to the segment, What Grinds Your Gears This Week? So you can start if you want, or I can tell you mine.
Well, I mean, I guess we could just start with the snow, because we got a snowstorm that is currently happening, I think. I didn't look outside anytime lately, but yeah, we're supposed to get, 8 inches of snow?
No, it's somewhere between 3 to 8 inches. I don't know.
I don't know. They keep changing it every time, and we're probably gonna wake up tomorrow morning and it's just gonna be a dusting.
Yeah. It makes me sick. I hate winter. Is by far my least favorite season, and I live in Northeast Ohio. So
you're in the wrong state.
I'm in the wrong state. But even when it doesn't snow, the freezing temperatures are awful, because freezing rain, number one, worst thing to live in. I hate freezing rain. It's worse than snow, because it creates black ice and you can't see anything when you're driving. Like, you're just going to slide. But snow, I hate snow because there's no actual purpose of it. I mean, it's wet, it's cold, it's makes driving so much more of a hassle, and it's pretty to look at, I guess. Yeah. It reminds me of cookies. Sure, they taste good, but they're bad for you, and they're just fill up space in your stomach, and there are a lot of calories.
Yeah, I don't mind snow because I'm originally from Wisconsin, so like I grew up with it, but I do agree with you there. It gets kind of annoying. More so towards the end of the season, where everything's just gray and gloomy and slushy and wet and disgusting. I don't mind like the first couple months where you get the beautiful white snow, the ground is hard, and like you can do skiing, tubing, snowboarding, whatever floats your boat there, and it's not a terrible nightmare to drive in. But as soon as you start hitting that bridge to winter, spring, where you get that freezing rain and everybody starts sliding like an ice skating rink, then it starts getting interesting, and then I'm like, yep, it's time for summer.
Yep, I'm ready for summer. I'm like, if I had to rank all the seasons, number one, fall. I love fall. You got football. And the weather's great.
Yep, that's my number one too.
Yep. Then you go summer. Love the warm weather. Love that. Then 3, spring. And then 4, dead last by a long shot, is winter. It's not even close.
See, mine goes fall, winter, summer, and then spring. I hate spring. Hate it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people say they don't like spring because it's rainy and it's just mushy everywhere, and yeah. I mean, I hate snow that much.
Yeah.
So if I could get sunny and 70-degree weather all year long, that's good enough for me.
Spring for me is just a season of headache because I have bad allergies. So like literally the entire spring, I'm walking around with a giant headache. So.
See, since I don't have to deal with allergies, I'm fortunate there, and I don't really. I'm not allergic to anything either, so everything that goes through the air, I'm pretty fine with. So that's why spring really isn't a problem for me. But I definitely understand why people hate it.
Yeah. Yep.
Snow. If you live in Ohio, or heck, even
Midwest.
If you live Midwest, we should say it's a nightmare to deal with. You lucky people down south that don't have to deal with near as much. I always like too when you see like schools in Tennessee or something like that close if they get like an inch of snow, and I'm like, we wake up, we see an inch, and we're disappointed.
Yeah, like, come on, why can't it be like a foot? I want to close.
Yeah, this was back when I was like in school, and I wanted it to get everything to get closed. Yeah. But the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, the more snow, the worse it is. Thank God it's only an inch though. But yeah, that's the snow aspect. Now, what grinds my gears? College basketball started this week, and it reopened this discussion between me and my family about one and dones. And for me, I hate it. It's ruining the sport of college basketball. And I know they're trying to fix it, but there needs to be a way they can fix it as soon as possible. Because it ruins the sport of basketball for me, seeing these guys come in for 1 year and then jolt off to the NBA. And I'm sick of it. I want to sit down. I want to watch a team improve year after year with the same team. And that's why schools like Virginia or Ohio State or all these other schools that develop players over time between their second and third and even their fourth year develop a great team and great chemistry and compete for a college basketball title. So when I look at how we fix college basketball, you get rid of this one and done rule. You look at college football, they don't have this rule. You have to be in college football for at least 2 years before you can go off to the NFL. So I wish the NCAA would make a rule like that for college basketball. If you're gonna come play college, you have to stay for at least 2 years, and at least give them the option to go play in like the D League or another league right when they come out of high school instead of going to college, because it's really a waste. One, it's a waste of money because you're giving scholarships to kids who are just gonna bolt off after 1 year. So I mean, you're just using those kids for basketball. They'll go to school, maybe take a couple core classes for a degree, but for the most part, I think they'll all take gen ed classes. Yeah. Like they're not taking calculus 2 as a freshman. But yeah, that's I start watching basketball, and Duke, I may lose some fans here, but I'm a Duke fan, and when
unsubscribe.
don't unsubscribe. But I come into the season this year, I'm like, who are these guys? They're all freshmen, and I don't know anyone because we have guys that are one and done, and it's ruining the sport. And I told my family this: I'm not really going to be that big of a Duke fan this year if we're just doing this one and done thing every year. I want to enjoy my team, not just go into the season every year trying to relearn every single player's name just to forget about them the following season. Just not fun for me, man. And back in the day, back in like the 2000s, even the late 2000s, that you had that's when March Madness was at its peak for me. That's when it was fun, because all these guys were better and better year after year, and you didn't see near as many one and dones. And then the 2010s started rolling around. That's when it started to come into play, and more of these guys would go off to the NBA. Because I think that I don't know if there was a rule where they made you not where it's not allowed to leave high school and go directly to the NBA, because LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, a whole bunch, not Carmelo. Carmelo played for Syracuse, but Dwayne Wade, all these players went directly out of high school and straight to the NBA. They should either make that a thing again, or make you play at least 2 years in college basketball, because I don't like it. I don't like it. Gotta love when I go rants about college basketball. There's so many more rants about college sports that I could go on.
Do you think a lot of it had to do with I think, in my opinion, a lot of it has to do with greed. Oh yeah, I mean, it's all about greed when it comes to college sports. Yeah, and I would talk about student athletes making money off their likeness, but I'll save that for next week, because that grinds my gears beyond all reason, because that ruined the NCAA sports franchise, the whole aspect behind that. And it's understandable for the college athletes, but NCAA, the organization as a whole, is an absolute laughingstock. They've done nothing more to make me gain their trust, but every year they make it more possible for me to hate them every year. All right, that's what grinds my gears. So you got snow, and I got college athletes, college athletics. All right. Anything else you want to add about this week's show? No, nothing on that I see on the list. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for listening to the Grinding Gears podcast. If you would like to see more, just let us know. If you would want us to answer your questions, just hit us up on Instagram at the Grinding Gears podcast and send us a message there, or comment on our videos on YouTube, and subscribe to us on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, and as well as Spotify. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.